Graphic design is everywhere. It's anything that it's visual and it's trying to convey a message. So a magazine, an advert on the newspaper, on the TV, a website, a logo, all of that is graphic design. I'm Mayte. I am a graphic designer. I am doing a career experience, creating content for internal engagements, and I do volunteering with Nova New Opportunities. I do brand design for a few clients, all independent business owners, women. And I think that takes most of my time. I try to be an artist, but I don't really get time to that.
How it all started?
I suppose it all started with me being a fashion designer when I was a little kid. And when I had to choose what to study, I wanted to follow my passion, but also do something that I could employ in the world. And there wasn't a really good school of fashion design. So I went for graphic design. And retrospectively, this is one of the best decisions I ever made. I can't believe how much I love it. So that's what I set up to do. After university, I went studying languages. I studied French. And then I decided to go to China and learn Chinese because the opportunity presented itself. And so there I was for 6 months and just embarking on a new adventure, almost out of the blue. And I'm not sure how my parents supported that decision, but they did. I did my Chinese course. I lived with a Chinese family. I had friends from all over the world. And when the time came, I decided that I was going to stay. So I started freelancing in Shanghai. And then the opportunity presented itself and I got a few jobs. And after that, the 2008 financial crisis came. I came back to Italy, where my family is from, and I started all over again. I was hired as a product design specialist, and basically that's a sales role. And the reason I went on is I really wanted to interact on a daily basis. I never planned for it to be a 14-year career, or what has turned into a 14-year career. It has changed the whole course of my life. Although it took me on a sideway from my design career, I went on to work on sales, on ops, on leadership, and I was missing my creative roots. So I'm trying to get back into it. And I always try to use what I learned as a graphic designer because it never left me, is when you have this passion for art and beautiful things, to say the least, it never really leaves you. So I always try to integrate that. And at some point I felt that I was really missing my, using or being a designer. And I started volunteering, offering my skills. So I'm really lucky that we are given the opportunity to volunteer, and the company will match that time to the charity. So the charity not only gets my time and my skills, but they also get the money, which is a huge bonus. And not only I was using my skills, I was doing it for something good. And those two things, I think that they are the pillar of my professional career. And it has made me really passionate about using my skills for good. I love that. I love settling into my workday. So right now, it starts with getting a coffee and sitting in front of the computer and checking my emails, because that helps me set up my day. So my emails will usually be a follow-up from previous days. So now I know that I need to put those things into my to-do list. In my head, in my to-do list, I already have a set of tasks that I need to start or continue working. So checking my emails and messages on Slack will inform that to-do list as well. Also because usually it comes with last-minute requests, as in, I need this for 1 p.m. today. Can you do it? And how do you juggle that? You might be working on something that is also time sensitive, but you get this request and suddenly it takes priority. And I've learned that that's a massive skill. I also enjoy working with the team in the office. So right now I'm working in a hybrid format. So Mondays and Fridays are from home, and Tuesdays to Thursdays is in the office. Lunch is usually with my lunch group, with a couple of friends from other teams that I've worked with in the past. We do a lot of volunteering together, so it almost turns into an update of what your day has been, or what's the latest. Returning to my desk to then continue or see what else came up as a last minute. And there's a lot of calls in between. So we have an app that opens the online room for you like a minute before, and so you can get ready. And I'm glad that we have it, because sometimes I'm just so engrossed doing things, or you have to zoom in and look at the detail and then zoom out to make sure that everything is working well. That is what attention to detail looks like. And if you're working in big tech, this is essential. You really need to push yourself to be super detailed.
What a bad day looks like.
The systems are not working, which basically computer says no. That's a bad day. Or spending 2 hours debating a word or an image, or whether this is the right thing. And in those moments, I stop and, is this worth it? Spending 2 hours talking, is this going to make or break a design? And sometimes the answer might be no, but you still do it because it's the right thing to do. It's what it takes to do things properly, to work with integrity, which I think it's important. Because when you work with integrity, it's very black and white, in my opinion. Justifying your decisions, it's easier. And if your integrity is aligned with values and what makes you, then there's not real second guessing.
Working in big tech comes with extra pressure, extra responsibilities, high stakes. What it feels like day to day.
Oh yeah, the expectations are so high when you work for big tech, because everyone, and when I mean everyone, the whole world looks at the output, what you deliver. It needs to be the best. And I'm a reformed perfectionist. I say reformed because I've worked my best to settle for good enough. There is also this inner drive to not settling, because the pressure is high, because the expectations are high, because I want to do my best. How does it feel? It feels like I want to finish the job that I started. It feels, therapists wouldn't say that this is, in CBT, they would say that this is not true and it shouldn't be, it's too much pressure, but that if I don't finish what I started, or if I don't do it well, then it's not worth doing, or it has a negative connotation. That helps me deliver, but it doesn't come without consequences to your mental health or your physical health, really. I think it all goes together. So I've learned mindfulness. I try to practice mindfulness, even though my job can carry me towards an extreme where you need to meet those standards. I try to bring myself back to a place of the world is not going to end. Any consequences can be dealt with. Be true to yourself, to myself, and do what's best for me, taking care of me. And that can be simple things like eating well, Maybe tomorrow morning coffee is not in front of the computer. It's in the kitchen with no tech devices. Now, currently I'm doing this career experience where I am a designer for internal content, internal marketing. I am also a DNA lead for accessibility, which is a employee network or employee representation network. So I advocate for all things accessibility in our company. In that, I organize activations, which are internal events, to talk about a myriad of subjects that touch on accessibility. It can be neurodivergence, or it can be an illness, or it can be or tech or features. I also do volunteering. So I organize, always aligned with accessibility, I organize volunteering opportunities where our teams can employ their time and match that time to the charity that focuses on accessibility. So last year, we partnered with Cope, which is one of the leading accessibility charities in the UK. And just to bring awareness about July being Disability Pride Month, which until not too long ago, I didn't even know that existed. To me, this is meaningful. I'm helping people be more aware of a minority and issues that we might not be always aware of. So besides creating opportunities to volunteer with an accessibility focus, I also support a number of volunteer champions. I support anyone who comes to me, and because I've been doing it for a while, then they're more like 20. So I advise them on policies, on what to do, how to do it, the logistics of running an event. And in a way, some people are young and they might not have that experience and they might want to do it to upskill themselves. So in a way, it's like mentoring people to develop themselves for a good cause. I continue to volunteer my skills as a designer for Nova New Opportunities. If I have to choose a charity that kind of does it all, then I choose Nova. They helped me as well. In some of my darkest moments, Nova was there. So I feel that it's only right that I give it back. So I continue to design for them and help them present themselves in the best possible way so they can continue to deliver the programs to the community. That's what I came to this world to do. And I want to leave the world a better place by offering my skills.
What drives you to do so many roles?
Last year, I was diagnosed with ADHD. And right there, I didn't actually understand what ADHD was. I mean, it didn't hit me, not because I didn't understand, but because I realized that when I started reading more, I realized that what I thought that was ADHD, it wasn't. Or it wasn't just that. So I think that the first driver is ADHD. My brain just can't think of a myriad of ideas. And the challenge then is finding the time to do it all and the energy. So that's one. I'm wired to be creative. I'm wired to have ideas. But I just want to help. That is my driver. I want to help people. And I find a way of doing that in every role. So I like to think that I'm just a grain of sand in the bigger scheme, but that grain of sand, it's moving other pieces in the system. And it's people like me that, because I know a lot of people that are passionate about volunteering, it's people like me that make these things happen.
Would you say having ADHD gave you some superpowers?
There is a big debate. It can feel like a superpower because your brain has so many ideas, good ideas. It can also be hindering because it's exhausting, like mentally exhausting, and it can lead to burnout. It doesn't come alone. It comes with several other things, that comorbidities, the doctors call it, that can also make your day-to-day life more difficult. And I'm not going to get into the detail, but they play a big role. And if you're not careful, that superpower becomes a disability. So if you can use it, if you can harness it, it is. If you let it drive you, a little bit less.
What are things you use on a daily basis to manage the ADHD?
To-do lists. Like in my journey of ADHD and being late diagnosed, I think I'm still a beginner level. Although many things I've put in place, many strategies I've put in place after years of therapy to help myself. And now I know, actually, these are coping strategies for ADHD. So to-do lists, they help. Putting things on your calendar. My brain is already a busy place. So if I kind of load that somewhere, it feels so much better. There's room for something else. Prioritizing self-care, it has to. Sometimes it's not easy because the priorities, the work, I want to deliver the best, the responsibility, because I feel that all these hats that I wear, they are a responsibility to someone. And I don't want to deliver less. But I can only deliver that if I take care of myself. So I have to prioritize that. I have to have my morning routine. A very simple thing is prepping my breakfast every 2 weeks for the 2 weeks ahead. Because it's one decision less that I need to take in the morning. It's like wearing the same shirt for a week, or I mean that kind of excessive, especially if you cycle. But I have plenty of white sweaters because I don't have to decide what to wear. It's just a white sweater and a black trousers, and that's evergreen. You see, that's also comes from design, what looks good. And if I can diminish the number of decisions that I have to make through the day by knowing that I'm having this breakfast and I like it and that suits me, then I'm already making it better for myself. Prioritizing protein, fiber, so I automate that part of my life so I can leave room for the rest.
AI, did helps you on a daily basis, or how it disrupted your work? Where, as a graphic designer, did you think it's gonna replace your work, or it helps?
That's a very good question. And I think it's a question that is on everybody's mind or everybody's lips. Is it helping me? Yes. Does it scare me? Maybe a little bit. Is it going to replace my work? Partially, but not entirely. And in the best way, no, it won't. And I'll get to that. So now I can explain. So I hate to admit, but now I'm like relaying my emails responses to AI. Not all of them, but there are some times where I need the energy somewhere else. So I just, in my prompt, I say, I want to respond this and that. Draft it, be polite, be concise. One side of me thinks that this is lazy. And when you stop using a muscle, then you have to retrain it again. It goes. The capacity of doing something at certain level, if you don't use it, you lose it. But as I said, it's not for every email, but that's one of the ways that I'm using AI, because it frees my brain to do something else or to employ that time somewhere else. Especially if you're an overthinker like me and you write an email and then you go and reread it 3 different times to make sure that the tone is right. I'm using it to ask for layout suggestions based on what I want to do. So it's like having someone next to me that I can brainstorm with, and I find that very beneficial. It helps me for very basic things like cleaning up an image. That's not going to replace my work, but it's going to make it easier for sure. And the reason that I say that I'm not afraid of it replacing it entirely, it's because I've been working with AI for a few years now, and I've tried my best. And one of my current projects is understanding how the whole team can better use AI to do minor tasks that can free up the time to do more important work. One of the things that I've found is that you need to be knowledgeable. You need to be a master in your area to know what to ask for, to write a good prompt. If you don't, you're going to get very fuzzy work, very general responses. So the more you know, the better the output. And then you're able to spot mistakes. If you don't have the expertise, it's very difficult. So partially, I think this might replace my job for people that are looking for a quick solution. We've seen tools that are doing amazing work, but in my opinion, this work is all looking very standardized. It looks very trendy, and I don't see the differentiation between one brand and the other. And that's where human creativity and human input makes the difference. Can AI do it better? Perhaps in some cases. Can it free up time? For sure. But the brilliancy that classic designers have had and that contemporary designers continue to have, I don't think that will come from AI alone.
For charities that requires muscle power, like that requires resources, do you think AI can help them?
Definitely, I think AI can help many people. Charities needing a hand, for sure. I think if you ask AI to do a whole marketing campaign, for example, and to deploy it for you, you will need an eye on that to make sure that it's actually doing and saying the right things. It might perhaps help a charity work with a volunteer that doesn't have enough time to do the whole thing. But hey, I've done this. It is definitely one of the ways that I've been able to scale up work with my volunteering because, again, I have many hats in and outside of work, and I still want to continue volunteering. So one of the things that I do is I use AI to deliver most of the work and then employ my time to touch it, to make it better.
So anyone now who is getting into the career of a graphic designer or corporate or big tech, and they're thinking, oh, if the AI is going to be doing all this job, what should I prioritize? Or what should I study? Or what should I go? What would advice you would give?
Something with technology, for sure. When I studied graphic design, it was a computer science degree. Interestingly enough, the first year or year and a half, we didn't touch a computer. It was art history, and it was traditional techniques like drawing, painting, photography, traditional photography. And then we moved into digital mediums. What was the point? So I studied my career in Venezuela in a time that we still did 5-year degrees. And I'm lucky, I think. It was all about maximizing what's in here and what your hands can do to digitalize it, not to replace it. One of my projects was to start drafting a logo and a graphic identity, a brand, by hand, using traditional techniques like drawing or painting, and then digitalize that. And how do you convert that into vectors? So what you should study, I don't think that we should forsake handiwork. That carries our roots as human beings. If you want to specialize with all AI going on, do something that requires your hands and your brains. And then how do you use technology to amplify that? Because I think that is a treasure trove. And there's wonderful and intelligent artisans that are doing this to preserve our tradition, because technology alone cannot, I don't think it can replace us as human beings.
And someone who has finished university and now is starting the career and getting into different companies, what advice would you give? Where they
Volunteer.
should volunteer? Why is that?
If I hadn't worked in big tech, I wouldn't have had the opportunity or the drive to volunteer in the way that I have. And this is because although I had done volunteering sporadically, since I was a child, I was taught to help others. But it was until my first career experience in project manager, in operations, that I said, this is what I want to do. So after I finished that career experience, I went on and got certified in project management. And then I said, cool, now I need to get experience. And it was that made me look for a volunteer job. I already had a full-time job. So I looked for who's looking for project managers, and I found Nova. It was close to my work. So one of the things that we look into volunteering is supporting the community where you work. So that was a win-win. They were looking for a project manager. And when I went there, actually, they needed everything. They needed a graphic designer, they needed a photographer, they needed a project manager. And that's what I did. So it became, I just help out. And I love what they did back then. And I just wanted to help as much as I could. And it's been 8 years that I've been volunteering with them. So volunteering with them then led into launching TEDx Lab Growth in 2019. I got to be the creative director, the creative lead for this project. And that looks really nice on my CV. It's one of my proudest moments. I became part-time, so I could have enough time to volunteer. And this is the way that I got back into my creative roots.